Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on X at Movies TV Mad and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. A very warm welcome to Wednesday's edition of the Movies TV Mad Daily. James Gunn is fully aware that the reason the DCEU failed from its inception because it didn't walk before it could run. It made Man of Steel, they made Man of Steel, then straight away they did BVS, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman. They had this huge slate with a Cyborg movie, with a Flash movie. They had a slate they could never honour. They were saying they were going to make a Green Lantern Corps movie. David Goyer was going to write and direct it. Where is it? We never got it. Regrettably, because I think David's vision for the DCEU, starting with Man of Steel, was brilliant alongside Zack Snyder's vision visually for the franchise. But they ran before they could walk. And James Gunn is fully aware that the DCU cannot do that because everything is riding on this Superman movie. Make no mistake, without a successful Superman movie, you don't have a successful DCU. If Superman flops, heaven forbid, there's no DCU. That's why I actually think, and this is a hot take, releasing a slate for DC Universe was a very, very big mistake. And I think if you ask James Gunn and Peter Safran now if they think that was a good idea, they're regretting it every single day. Because fans keep on asking them, what's going on with Brave and the Bold? What's going on with Swamp Thing? They made all these huge, exciting announcements like the DCEU did. But if Superman fails, that slate isn't worth the paper it was written on. And I pre-warned about this before. Because I said to you, I like the slate. And I still like the slate. I'm glad they want to make a Swamp Thing movie. I'm glad they want to make a Supergirl movie. You know, I'm very happy with this slate. I think The Authority could be interesting as well. Lanterns could be very interesting, although I prefer an epic Lantern Corps movie. But anyway, you know, they've got this kind of prerequisite that they have to have streaming shows. I'm afraid that's the environment that we're in. The slate isn't the problem, but announcing a slate while you're still releasing 4 DCEU movies from the previous franchise doesn't help those movies. And you've now made a promise. You've made a promise that you believe that your first movie, Superman, is going to be a success. As I've already said, these are not my rules. I'm not the emperor of anything. I'm called Movies TV Mad because I love TV and movies. I'm mad about movies and TV, right? I've been watching movies and TV since I was a small boy. That doesn't make me an expert or an authority. It just means that, you know, I know what I like and I know what I don't. I think I know what works and I think I know what doesn't work. Well, for me, especially. It doesn't mean my opinion is better than yours or that I know more than you, but I know a lot about this industry, which puts me in a great position to understand what's going to work and what's not going to work. And as you know, I've predicted a lot of things that have come true. You know, that isn't a happy accident. If I predict one thing that comes true, I'm lucky. Again and again and again. And then maybe you should think, maybe this guy who doesn't get a big following, you know, knows what he's talking about. He's always straight with us. He's always direct with us. Maybe, you know, maybe we should trust him. Do you know what I've been wondering, you know? The reason I set up this channel in the first place, one of the many reasons, one of the many creators was Chris Svensson. Well, I don't see him around anymore, which is a shame because I used to love his DC videos. What a shame. What happened there? He became successful, but he's not doing it anymore. Maybe he just doesn't want to. But, you know, it's interesting that he was successful and he doesn't do much in YouTube videos anymore. I'm unsuccessful and I'm still doing it. It kind of very, very interesting. Anyway, I kind of changed the subject there. Come on, Chris. Come back, do some videos. Maybe you can be a guest on this channel. I can't afford to pay you, but I'd love a chat because you're one of my many inspirations for starting this channel. So, yeah, that's where we are. This Superman film has to be successful or they can't make more. So I actually, again, hot take, I think it's a dumb idea to release a slate of a franchise that's in the balance because there's only really 3 creatives that have really attracted the general audience to Superman, which is Dick Donner, Gotham Miller, Alfred Gotham, and Miles Miller. Alfred Gotham, Miles Miller created Smallville. They ran the show for 7 of the 10 seasons it was on air. The season, the pilot of Smallville had around 7 million viewers. Young kids who never picked up a comic book suddenly were relating to Clark Kent. Because Smallville kind of made Clark Kent into Peter Parker. He's a teenager with ordinary problems, but he's also an alien with superpowers who's pure-hearted and saves people. And if you like, Jonathan and Martha Kent are like Aunt May and Uncle Ben. It's all there, isn't it? And then you've got the Osborns, but the Luthors. So you've got Lionel Luthor, who's basically Norman Osborn, let's be honest. And then you've got Lex Luthor, who's more like Harry Osborn in this show. It's all there. And that's why Smallville became really relatable. So it was a very, very clever way to make, Superman relatable again and bring new fans to the Superman genre. And we know that Donner is, that's the movie that everyone speaks about. It doesn't mean I suddenly don't like Man of Steel, but I do. But let's be honest, that's a cult. That's kind of got a cult kind of fandom, hasn't it? Not cult as in religious cult, I'm not being derogatory, but it's a cult fandom that, that and BVS has. We're just going to be honest about the situation, right? But then when you look at Man of Steel and BVS, in terms of box office after 4 or 5 weeks, no Superman movies have made more money than them, right? And then, you can translate for different money and things like that. But yeah, I think Donner captured something very special and stayed within the character and the material. Smallville kept it colourful, kept Superman, that, Clark Kent, that character that we know and love, but he's a teenage boy. They decided, to take him out the suit. Well, they didn't take him out the suit. They just decided that a young Clark Kent wasn't going to be Superboy in the costume. I never liked that version of Superboy, a pre-Superman Superboy. I never liked that. I liked the Connor Kent Superboy, but I didn't like the idea of Superman being Superboy in Smallville before he becomes Superman. It doesn't really make much sense. And so what they did was basically, they were inspired by Spider-Man. And yeah, they literally took the Spider-Man premise and those characters and basically embodied those characters within the Superman lore. And it was a very, very good idea. So, and you could say the Lois and Clark show starring Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher, appealed to a general audience. That was, a romantic comedy. And women especially loved that show. But apart from those, apart from Smallville and Lois and Clark and Superman 78, general audiences have never really warmed to Superman in live action that much. So they're very brave. James Gunn, Peter Safran and David Zaslav are very brave to pick Superman, a Superman movie, to launch their franchise. You could even say that maybe it's not the best of ideas and maybe they should have chosen an easier superhero to launch the franchise with. Memories of Iron Man and Robert Downey Jr. But launching the MCU with Iron Man was a huge gamble. They're lucky they had Favreau, but they chose him, so it's not luck. They were clever to cast Robert Downey Jr. and Jeff Bridges as the villain, so they did some smart things. They kept it small. The thing is with the Iron Man movie, the expectations were low. Marvel fans were hoping this new independent studio, Marvel Studios, wasn't owned by Disney at the time, could pull it off. And you know, the movie broke box office records for an indie company, and it was amazing. You know, and they launched this franchise and they did the Infinity Saga, and it was brilliant. But that is over with now. They're not successful anymore. Who really talks about the MCU anymore? So James Gunn has got this big, huge challenge. Now, as I say, I don't think it's smart to release a slate. The DC, basically, that's the same mistake the DCEU made by launching slates before you knew something was going to be successful. They made Man of Steel, then they went straight into BVS, right? And even before BVS was released, they didn't even wait to see if BVS was going to be successful. They started working on Zack's Justice League. That's what a huge mistake was. So they were working on Justice League, BVS was released, and it was very, very divisive. They already had a problem. So they couldn't put the brakes on, you know, Justice League, but then they tried to change it. You know, you can't stop a train in full flight because, you know, it's hard to brake. And you're still going to run the cat over on the, you know, on the train line because it won't stop in time. And that's the problem. And to me, announcing a slate, which, you know, I don't think that slate will change if Superman is successful. But nobody knows if Superman is going to be successful or not. When we look at how many Superman movies there's been, Superman the movie, Superman 2, Superman 3, Superman 4 was an official flop, right? Superman Returns, you know, not even 400 million with nearly a 300 million budget. Yeah, they were using, at the time, the experimental Phoenix cameras. So, yeah, they cost a lot of money, as well as all the other things that they did. They shot that beautiful Return to Krypton sequence, spent all that money on it, then never put it in the movie. Fucking insanity, right? So is that movie a flop? I think you'd have to call Superman Returns a bit of a flop, considering it barely made 100 million profit, right? Was that a profit? Was it a profit? I don't know. Let's just say it broke even. Maybe he got his money back, right? Let's be kind and say that. But they didn't make money out of it, right? And I don't know how everyone deems a flop and not a flop. It's a bit difficult, isn't it? But not successful, really. So they were going to do a sequel to Superman Returns, Superman Man of Steel. But that didn't happen. So then they decided, David Goyer, we know the story, David Goyer wanted to make a First Contact story about Superman. So they did Man of Steel. Man of Steel made nearly $700 million. I think probably on around maybe 200 to 300 million budget. That was a very expensive film. So that film we'll have to call a hit, right? I don't think Man of Steel cost 600 million to make, no. So that movie didn't make the movie the studio wanted, but it still made money at the end of the day. We have to be honest. Then 850 million for Batman versus Superman. Again, the studio wanted to make more money, but they did make money from that movie. So they weren't huge hits. And what I call, as I say, MOS, the Snyderverse, BVS, they're cult classics. They're not, they're not general audience movies. And Warner Brothers wanted general audience CBMs from Snyder, but you don't bring in Snyder to do that. But then, they were slaves to Christopher Nolan. They didn't want to upset Nolan at the time. So whatever decisions, whatever things he wanted to make, they just said, yes, Lord Nolan. I mean, it's going to be Sir Christopher Nolan now. I mean, I think it's insane that, you get MBEs and OBEs for making films and being football managers. I'd rather give it to people like nurses and people in the police, the good police, not the corrupt ones, obviously. Just people who are doing good. Not millionaires who are making films. You know me, I'm movies TV man. I love film. But I don't think you should fucking be called Sir Christopher Nolan because you made a great movie. That's just maybe that's my socialist opinion coming out there. Anyway, so I think it's crazy that they've, you know me, I love Superman. I'm a mad Superman fan. You know that. But I still think it's crazy to launch a franchise with a movie about a character that's been really difficult to make relatable. as I say, I think you probably were better off making Brave and the Bold, or even launching it with another character. Maybe, even a Swamp Thing, even, the Authority, or, anything, or something maybe even a bit lighter. But Superman is a big gamble. Now, don't get me wrong, if Gunn is able to make a great Superman movie that the general audience love, then he can move with this slate. Now, obviously, the slate was announced to get people excited and get people talking. I understand, to bring some positivity into a fandom that's divided. I understand that. I wouldn't have done that. And I don't work in this industry. I don't work in this mainstream industry, in the main part of the industry, where big time directors and actors work in. I get that. I'm just telling you, I don't think it's a good idea to announce a slate when you don't know if the movie you're launching the franchise with is going to be successful. As a writer-director, James Gunn will have confidence in his own ability. But that doesn't mean shit. He would have been confident that his Suicide Squad movie was going to make a lot of money. Because I was doing lives, and the audience that were, watching the lives and interacting with me, we all thought this film was going to be huge. Some people actually believe that the Suicide Squad is the best DC Extended Universe movie. I don't agree with it. I like it. I think it's a very, very good movie. James Gunn's never put a foot wrong in terms of CBMs, including Peacemaker. That's my opinion on that. But, as I've said before, it's one thing to do a Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. It's one thing to do Peacemaker. It's one thing to do Scooby-Doo, right? There's not much pressure in doing that. Or he wrote that zombie movie, Dawn of the Dead, that Zack Snyder directed. But Superman, it's like, if you're doing Superman or Robin Hood or King Kong, right? There's new pressure to that. Even a Tarzan movie, there's expectation. And he's never, ever made such a big movie. Even if the movie has a cheap budget, we don't know. There were rumours about 300 million and nonsense like that. Who knows? But he's shooting, the whole film's been shot with IMAX, which is, again, is very, very expensive. So who knows how much they're spending on this movie. If you believe some people, right, Warner Brothers is about to have a winding up order, and other people think Warner Brothers have got money to burn. I don't think they've got money to burn, but I think they're gambling on James Gunn and this movie. We spoke about this yesterday as well, that Warner Brothers are starting to make money. Well, they're not making money because they've got such huge debt. Any movie that's successful goes to pay off that debt. But yeah, they're making money. Their movies are successful. Barbie, which was greenlit before Zaslav came in, Wonka, very, very successful. Dune 2, very, very successful. Still in movie theaters if you want to go and see it. And, Godzilla, Kong, X, New Empire, whatever it's called, great movie, because it focuses on the epicness of the monsters. So they're making money. They're making good movies. They're doing better. Apart from Universal, who are also doing very well at the moment, apart from the Nickelodeon situation, apart from that, they're doing very, very well. So, but I think there is a question mark here. Maybe these monsters are the way to go now. And I don't think you'll ever be able to take something and get MCU success like the MCU had. But I think that maybe this, this Kaiju universe, this Kong, Godzilla, this is my reasoning where I think the next Jurassic World film will be more successful than Superman and Fantastic Four. Because people love those Jurassic World movies and Jurassic Park movies. Even the crap ones make money. Even Dominion, which I didn't like and many people didn't like, made good money, okay money, right? Imagine if you make a great Jurassic World movie and you got, Scarlett Johansson is still in talks. That'd be interesting if that falls through. If that happens, that's huge. That will add to their box office because she hasn't really done anything big for a while, but she's a fantastic actress. She's absolutely beautiful. She's another Ana de Armas. Ana de Armas has got it all. She's a great actor, but she's stunning at the same time. She's got the whole package. It does make me laugh about like Sydney Sweeney. Everyone thinks she's a great actress just because they're looking at her melons, right? But I'm not fooled. I'm a straight guy. I love attractive women, but a cleavage is never going to distract me. And you know, there's a difference between Scarlett Johansson and Ana de Armas and, you know, Sydney Sweeney. No disrespect to her. I appreciate a good-looking woman like the next man. Anyway, moving on. So I do believe that Jurassic World will be more successful than Fantastic Four and Superman. But that doesn't mean Superman and Fantastic Four can't be successful in their own way. I've also spoken about how it was up to me, there would be one superhero movie every 4 or 5 years if I was a studio. I wouldn't be peppering them out because people are kind of done with them, right? And yet I've said before, as long as they're good, it doesn't matter. But I do think the genre has been damaged by spraying too many of them out there, and people are getting fed up. There's a reason. It's only Deadpool and Wolverine coming out for the MCU this year. They know that themselves. Joker Folie à Deux is the only one coming out this year for cinemas. Obviously, we got Penguin and we got Creature Commandos on Max. That's a different situation entirely, a different case in point. So I think it is kind of an era where we get more monster movies, and I think they make more money than the comic book movies. I think people are a little bit fed up. But to go back to my point that nobody knows what Superman's fate is. So I think at the very least that Gunn keeps on saying, oh no, no scripts, no casting. Because he knows he can't go that forward with the slate that he shouldn't have announced without Superman being successful. But they're also very clever because people will say to me, but Creature Commandos is coming out this year. Yes, Creature Commandos is coming out this year because there's no consequence in that. It's an animated series and it helps kind of push forward the Superman movie and get hype. So that's going to be part of the marketing. That's fine. But you know, there's no movies this year. Gunn said himself it's a good thing. He said for the reset that we don't have any DCU movies this year. And I agree with him. Give it a break for a year, then come in next year. So he's right about that. Look, I'm not saying that Gunn isn't the right guy. I mean, I wouldn't have chosen myself, but hey, what the fuck do I know? Only time will tell. It would have always been Bruce Timm for me, because I've seen his work and it's phenomenal. It's amazing. But anyway, it is James Gunn. He has done amazing things in the CBM genre. I do like him as a creative. He's not perfect. None of us are. But he's good at what he does. But he's never really stepped away from the stuff. You know, he a clever person in the end doesn't take risks and, you know, plays to their strengths. Now, there's people, you know, in creativeness, in artisticness, in, you know, in movies and television that have taken big gambles that have paid off. You know, Robert Zemeckis took a big gamble with Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and it was an amazing film. It was groundbreaking, but at the same time, it had a great story, right? So that paid off, and it doesn't hurt to have Steven Spielberg in your corner. There's some people who have taken gambles like Kevin Costner with Waterworld, a film I personally enjoy, but that gamble didn't pay off. But Gunn sticks to what he knows. The thing is, Superman isn't Guardians, but he could insert the groupthink around Superman. He's with the Daily Planet lot. That's his group there. Then he's with the kind of the newly formed kind of like superheroes he's with, like Guy Gardner, Hawk Girl, etc. So he's never going to be alone. So that's James Gunn sticking with the formula that's made him successful in comic book movies. That wouldn't surprise me, and I've mentioned that before. But nobody knows if the general audience has any interest in Superman or a DC Universe franchise. Nobody knows. There's no evidence on the internet that the general audience are excited by James Gunn's comments on social media. His fans, like some DC fans who don't have a lot of followers online, seem to be excited about DC Universe, and that's great. But they are not the general audience, because people were shilling the Flash movie, Blue Beetle, and they all flopped, right? So it doesn't matter if someone on the internet goes, Blue Beetle deserves more respect. It doesn't matter. It flopped. You don't change the reality. You don't rewrite history and facts just because you post something on the internet. This is why I try and keep my videos factual. Conversations are on facts. But sometimes I'll say, what if that happens and what if that happens? That's all right, because I'm not pretending that what I want is facts. I'm not rewriting history. I would never do that. And if I'm wrong, I'm happy to admit it. And if you find something that I've put bad out there and you show it to me, I'm going to say, do you know what? You're right, but I'm a human being. I make fucking mistakes. You're a human being and you make mistakes as well, but you don't record your mistakes. That's the difference between us. And that's okay. Let's be mates. But, I'll reiterate what I've been saying in this whole video. Launching a slate to a universe that may never happen is very, very risky. Very risky indeed. Launching a universe that you're desperate to be successful so your studio has a future is a big gamble, because Superman isn't a slam dunk. Unless James Gunn's premise and the way he's going about this is a slam dunk, and we don't know that. Nobody can tell you that. And the people telling you it's crap, it's going to fail for sure, or it's definitely going to succeed, as I've said many times on this platform, you can't listen to those people, because they have an agenda. And they are trying to, create their wishes and their agendas as fact. Nobody knows how this movie is going to end up. Now, you can make a prediction that by a happy accident is right, but at the end of the day, nobody knows. Sometimes I wake up thinking it's going to be a big hit, James Gunn knows what he's doing, and sometimes I think, oh God, this is going to be a fucking disaster. I don't know. I'm a fan, I want it to succeed, but I just don't know. I do know that Zack Snyder's DC movies deserve more respect and more love and a bigger box office, but we live at a time when we don't respect someone like Snyder making the type of movies that he did. They look brilliant. They feel compelling. To me, they're brilliant. They're brilliant. Maybe not made for general audiences. Well, no, there's no maybe about it. They wasn't. But they're very interesting, compelling movies, But we don't live in the early noughties when people were looking up to things like the Dark Knight trilogy, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the Harry Potter 8 movies. We live in a different time. And I understand that the Harry Potter movies were made for general audiences. And Zack Snyder isn't a mainstream guy. Whatever he does, the mainstream seems to reject. I get it. But it's going to be interesting when this Superman movie comes out and how the general audience compare it to Man of Steel, considering many members of the general audience didn't like Man of Steel because it was contemporary. So very interesting, and it was a very different type of Superman film. So it'll be interesting in comparison. Will the general audience be saying, oh my God, James Gunn understands Superman more than Zack Snyder? Or will people actually say, Zack Snyder's movie wasn't so bad after all? It's a very, very interesting situation, isn't it? Well, it is for me. There's a lot riding on this. James Gunn is certainly aligned with the people who drove Zack Snyder out of Warner Brothers. There's no question about it. They're the ones who brought James Gunn in to make the Suicide Squad. Toby Emmerich, Walter Hamada, those people. And I think behind the scenes, they're hiding in plain sight. I've always said that. Now, despite all of that, maybe James Gunn is talented enough to succeed at this. But I tell you what, launching a slate and leading with Superman is a huge gamble.